Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Community Partnerships in Action stream here at the National Landcare Conference 2021. We are now going to move into our next presentation, which will be from Belinda Brennan and Marnie Ellis from West Gippsland Catchment Management Authority. And they'll be talking to us about Aboriginal Cultural Heritage and Landcare in West Gippsland. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Alexi. Thanks, everybody. Glad you can join us. Firstly, I'd just like to pay our respects to the traditional owners on the land on which we all meet. Obviously, we're all meeting on different lands. I'm on beautiful Bunurong country today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. What we're going to run through today is the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage and Landcare program we've been running in West Gippsland for a couple of years. I'll take you through a few slides and then I'm going to hand over to Marnie Ellis, who is our Regional Landcare Officer, to explain the program. Mandy Leggett is our Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Officer. Mandy's actually on leave, and so she won't be joining us, but she is the absolute backbone of this project and the reason we've got it all together. So a big shout out to Mandy if you are watching. So what we'll do is, firstly, we'll just go through who are we. So Marnie, Mandy and I work for the West Gippsland Catchment Management Authority. We're one of the 56 NRM regions in Australia, and we're the bottom of the Victorian mainland. So that little picture at the bottom is Wilson's Prom, which some people might be aware of. We have 3 registered Aboriginal parties within West Gippsland. The Gunaikurnai Land and Water Aboriginal Corporation is our largest. They cover approximately 80% of our region. So obviously we work with them quite a lot. We also have the Bunurong Land Council Aboriginal Corporation. They're in the southwest of our region and take about 13% of our region. And then we have the Wurundjeri. That tiny little bit of yellow up the top accounts for about 1% of our region. So they're the 3 RAPs that we work with. And then looking, we have 5 landcare networks in the region. We have the Bass Coast Landcare Network. We have the Latrobe Catchment, which is through the centre of our region. We have the Maffron districts along the eastern edge, South Gippsland across the bottom, and Yarram Fills in the gap. You'll see here on the map, we've deliberately overlaid it with our traditional owner map, and that's to make sure that our landcare networks understand what land they're working on, because realistically, our landcare networks and our traditional owners all have that caring for our land as the basis of their operations. So who is Landcare in West Gippsland? We've got 5 networks. We have 16 staff employed in those networks and within the CMA, 59 landcare groups, and about 800 volunteer members. And they're spread across the region. In 2019-20, those 800 landcare volunteers planted about 118,000 trees. They protected 84 hectares of remnant vegetation and put in about 21,000 hours of volunteer time. They work closely with schools, with all our other not-for-profits, and 22 of those groups work closely with our landcare, with our traditional owners. So that's one of the things that started that conversation. We've got some wonderful landcare members and they've got a real interest in just what's happening from that cultural heritage point of view. So it seemed like a logical extension of both programs. So if we just firstly look at what's happening, West Gippsland CMA has been working with the Gunaikurnai and Bunurong for a number of years. If we look at the picture of the hands, there is a painting that was done for the West Gippsland CMA by a Gunaikurnai artist to represent the work that we've been doing with them. We've got a memorandum of understanding with the Gunaikurnai, and that's been signed 3 times. We deliver some partnership projects, cultural heritage workshops, as well as some on-country projects with them. So we've been working with the Gunaikurnai for about 10 years, a little bit longer. The Bunurong here, again, this picture here is a painting that was done for us by a Bunurong artist. Bunurong is a relatively young organisation. As a RAP, they only got RAP status about 4 years ago. But again, we have an MOU with them. And for both the Gunaikurnai and Bunurong, I suppose the key for our MOU is that we will work with them on projects right from the start. So that's a 10+ year relationship. Our relationship with Landcare in West Gippsland is probably a bit longer. It's been going for about 15+ years. We host some Landcare staff within the CMA. We've been holding a regional Landcare forum, and I'm going to say for at least 15 years, because I've been involved for 14 and it was going well before that. So that's once a quarter. All our Landcare networks and CMA staff come together to share what's going on. So when you look at those two relationships and the function that they both have, caring for our land at the core, that's how we brought them all together. And I thank Marnie for that little graphic, which is now my background, but she has much more talent in bringing those little things together. So that's where it all came from. But I'm going to hand over now to Marnie to explain just what our program is. Thanks, Marnie.
Thanks, Belinda. Hi, everyone. I suppose I'll talk a little bit more about the partnership project and what we've been doing over the course of this program. So the aim of the partnership project between the two traditional owner groups, Landcare and the CMA, was all about creating a platform for landcarers to learn about their traditional owners. And in doing that, we knew that we needed to start an engagement process and figured that the CMA could act as the conduit between the two parties to nurture those relationships and start those conversations. Excuse me. The next one is about upskilling our Landcare members in recognising cultural heritage, and so as they understood what to do if they found it on a project site. And the last one was about creating an environment that was conducive to listening and learning. So enabling conversations to happen on country and recognising that these activities were not necessarily suited to classroom learning was a really big part of that. If we have a look at how we did all this, there was many arms to this project, but for today, I'll just highlight a couple. So Belinda mentioned Mandy Leggett. Mandy's a champion in this area, and Mandy's been running cultural competency training with Landcare staff and network boards since about 2018. And since that time, there's about 50 staff and board members have attended her training. Generally goes for a couple of hours. And during that training, participants are introduced to the region's traditional owners. We look at background of the local clan groups, their language, and also dive a bit into the history of the Aboriginal people of Gippsland. The participants during this training are also provided information to assist in the understanding of a welcome to country and an acknowledgement of country, and how the two are different, understanding how those two are different. Mandy also touches on registered Aboriginal parties. What is that? What does it mean? What is native title? And also looks at the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. As I mentioned, these training sessions normally run for a couple of hours, and these particular sessions are run in an office setting for those particular ones. So this year we've actually held some cultural heritage training days. So we started in early 2021, and between our numerous Victorian lockdowns, we've managed 3 on-country training sessions, and that's partnering with both the Bunurong Land Council and Glawak. To date, we've had 70 Landcare members attend 3 different days, or 3 separate days. One of those days included a day of absolute torrential rain, which Gippsland hadn't seen for a while, and it was really nice to see that the best part of all of those people turned out for that day to be out in the cold and wet all day, so it was great to see. During these particular sessions, we listened to stories from elders, we visited some beautiful places on country, and we learnt a whole lot more about cultural heritage from both Bunurong and from Glawak. Down in the bottom left hand of the screen, you'll notice a small plastic folder. So these have been the latest addition to this big project, and these are called our Cultural Heritage Information Packs. So from now on, you'll hear me refer to these as our chip packs. So these chip packs were actually, once we launched them, and I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about what's in them, but we used the Cultural Heritage Training Days as a platform to launch these chip packs and get them out to members. So we recognised that landcarers needed something in hand and something tangible, something that they could take out in the field and use as a tool. So these packs were put together with those things in mind, and they're a tool to carry in the field and assist the Landcare members in recognising and protecting Aboriginal cultural heritage while they're on project sites. They were developed in conjunction with GLOAC and with Bunurong, and they were both involved in the process from start to finish. The chip contains information about each of our traditional owner groups in West Gippy, and it also gives further links for anybody that wants to know a little bit more. So there's links and they can learn more about their respective traditional owner groups by gathering some of that information. Long term, we feel that the packs will assist Landcare members in meeting their requirements of the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. So if we delve a little bit into what's in the pack, there is numerous things, but there's the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Guide, which was developed by our Aboriginal Landcare facilitator, Jackson Chatfield. Some of you will know Jackson, and Aboriginal Victoria. There's an Aboriginal Heritage Identification Guide, which was developed by Parks Victoria in conjunction with traditional owner groups. There's an Aboriginal Victoria prelim report form, and that form is used by members of the public to report possible Aboriginal heritage place. So we've also got, I've got some here, a couple of A5 sheets. This one here is Gunaikurnai, and this one here is the Bunurong. And these small cards are just a little bit of information about each of those groups, and also include their contact details should any of our members wish to find out more information. One of the biggest little gems in this little folder is the Acknowledgement of Country card. So this card is probably one of the most valuable tools in there. It's a credit card size acknowledgement card. And what it has is on the front, it has an acknowledgement example for the Gunaikurnai and an acknowledgement example for the Bunurong. And then on the back side of that card is a whole of country acknowledgement. So what we found that it's a great tool for people who are unsure of what to say when they're giving an acknowledgement, or giving the acknowledgement. So it's a place to start and just give some information. And by no means do people have to follow that word for word, but it gives an idea of what they can say. Now, I suppose the biggest thing from this is looking at what we've learnt, and there has been quite a few learnings. And for this exercise, we've pulled 3 out. So one is time. It is really important to know your traditional owners and build solid foundations over time. This project is definitely not something that could have been developed and run in a 12-month period. These relationships have been a joint effort, and it's very much taken years to get to this point. The second one is listening. So there is nothing more important than taking the time to listen. And we can actually learn quite a lot from our traditional owners by simply listening to their stories. And I'll tell a little bit of a quick story. When I visited the Bunurong Land Council for the first time with Mandy and Belinda, going back maybe 3 years ago now, Mandy, before the meeting, said something to me along the lines of, it's fantastic you can come to the meeting. You won't need to say much. Just listen. Silences are okay. No need to fill the silences. And me being a bit of a chatterbox thought that may have been Mandy's nice way of telling you to be quiet for a while. But what I understand now was Mandy was actually preparing me for what I may learn by listening. And I thank her a lot in that tiny little snippet of info that she probably didn't realise how valuable that was going to be. But that was a really valuable lesson to me back then. The other point I'd like to make is that we need to recognise that each and every one of us has a different learning style. Some people may flourish in a classroom setting, other people may prefer to be in an unstructured day out. And managing participant expectations for each of our events has been and will continue to be super important. And the third one, which probably ties all of these 3 things together, is relationships. So our partnership relationship is really about developing. It's not just about delivering the goods. So any good relationship takes time, and we all know that. So in developing our relationships with our traditional owners, we've recognised the importance of being on country for the delivery of the actual training sessions. And I know that participants have really appreciated visiting some of the beautiful places that we have. And lastly, I suppose as part of all that is, we can always improve the way we do things with participant feedback. Who doesn't love a good feedback form? But what we found is that each time we run an on-country session, and we've run 3 this year, each one has been slightly tweaked or changed a little to help it run more smoothly, but also to help manage participant expectations for the next time around. So if we have a bit of a look at where we're all headed from here. So the West Gippsland CMA and Landcare in West Gippsland are really committed to organising and running these training sessions until such time as every Landcare volunteer has had the opportunity to attend. Now, we understand that not everybody will attend, and that's okay, that's absolutely fine, but everybody needs to have the opportunity. So we've got 2 sessions scheduled for October this year, of which I have a waiting list for both of those already. And most likely we'll continue to run these into 2022. And yeah, we'll run them until, like I say, till interest waivers, I suppose. And lastly, this is very much a collaborative project, and Belinda and I would both really like to acknowledge those involved. So the project has been funded by the Australian Government's National Landcare Program and the Victorian Landcare Program. And we acknowledge that without their support and the support of our 5 Landcare networks in West Gippsland, the Bunurong Land Council and the Gunaikurnai Land and Waters Aboriginal Corporation, that none of this would have been possible. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. That was fantastic, Belinda and Marnie. We'll now move into a question time. Now, if you have a question, please don't forget to post it, because we want all of those questions coming through so that we may address them in the chat. I thought that it might be a little bit fun, since we have a couple of extra minutes here, just to digress very quickly, because I know, Belinda, that you've been around the Landcare space in a lot of different capacities over the years, and we've had a very fun comment come in that really speaks to the breadth and amount of people tuning in from different parts of the world to this National Landcare Conference. And we have a comment here from Joy that says, "Greetings from Uganda. Belinda, you are our hero. Thank you for visiting us and walking with us, learning and implementing Landcare activities. Blessings, Joy." And I just
sending
thought,
my love back to Joy and everybody in Uganda. I've been very, very fortunate in the last couple of years to visit Uganda in a couple of capacities and run some training. And the Ugandan people are the most beautiful people, along with the people from Kenya I've also visited. So sending our love to Joy, and love from my family to you, Joy, who met Joy when we invited Joy here and we had a barbecue at home. We figured a good Aussie barbecue was better than sitting in a restaurant. So Joy got to have a barbecue at my place. So I met all my family, which was just lovely. So
that's truly beautiful. I just thought it would be amazing to highlight just how many different people around the world are tuning in to watch these presentations. And now to get back to the topic at hand. Now, we've had a couple questions come through, and one which is a very interesting question is, how do you go about managing the trauma and grief from logging, bushfires, and other land degradation on Bunurong and Gunaikurnai land? Given the damage is ongoing, how do you maintain hope?
Well, we work really closely with the Gunaikurnai and Bunurong, and I suppose it comes back to Marnie's point about listening. So we're very respectful of our traditional owners, and we're guided by them. That especially in East Gippsland, over recent, we've had floods, we've had fires. So we just need to be respectful. We need to listen, and it means that sometimes things get postponed, and that's okay. But we have to work together. So the only way you can do it is having that conversation. And being aware of what's happened. So if you know something's happened, ask the question, would you like us to postpone it? Is there anything we can do to help? It's the same as any partnership. It's just being respectful.
And one more question here just before we go. And this one is actually from myself because I'm very curious what both your opinions are on this. We've had a lot of discussion about partnerships through this stream particularly, and over the last two sessions about partnerships within First Nations people. And I'm very curious what you would say underlies as the most valuable component to a good, strong relationship with First Nations people and moving forward.
I'll start and then I'll let Mandy. I think we go back to that it takes time. Any good partnership takes time. Being aware of the capacity of our traditional owner organisations, because they're dealing with a lot of things, so being very respectful. And the big thing is just to listen and accept that sometimes you don't have to feel the silence, which we're all very good at. Marnie?
Yeah, mine's listen 101, Alexi. I learned that. I learned that, and like I said at the time, I thought Mandy was having a go at me to try and tell me to pipe down, but I realised that's been a really big learning, and that whole listening is about, you know, understanding what the traditional owners, what are their priorities, what are our priorities, and which of those overlap at the time that we can work on and both get some joint benefit.
Fantastic. I've just had one more question come through, and it is a quick one. And I think it's an interesting one to ask because it also relates back to the previous discussion that I just had with Craig Aspinall. And the question is from someone anonymous, don't know who, but they say, this is wonderful work. Are the traditional owners paid for their time and expertise?
When we deal with them on a project, yes. So we deliver cultural heritage sessions and they're paid the same as other things. The CMA also has a partnership arrangement with both the Gunaikurnai and Bunurong to help cover the time. They're not funded for everything they do. So we actually have that partnership arrangement where we cover the cost of them attending meetings, etc. And that's again something that we've just negotiated. We've worked with them on. So it is very important to acknowledge that they're not a government organisation, and so if you need them to attend something, there is a cost, and it's quite legitimate, and should be built into every project we develop.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for such an amazing presentation. It's been a pleasure. We will now have another 5-minute break, and then please join us again in the Community Partnership stream for the final presentation of this stream for this year's National Landcare Conference. See you all in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Alex.